there. But of course, I see Nate has some notes, so you've already watched them through. I've already watched them through. I'm really excited to get into this. Anything else, Nate? Anything you want to say? What's on your mind?
I have multiple personality disorder when it comes to my practice routine right now. I've been practicing like metal galloping and jazz changes.
Wow. So two very opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, but like I wrote out like the things I'm really focused on right now, and it's like 5 things, so it's not bad.
Okay.
Like 5 things, but they're all just all over the map. This is what I'm interested in right now, so forget about it.
If that's what motivates you, and you feel like you're at least moving forward in some way, shape, or form, I think that's perfectly okay.
My galloping has gotten 10 times better in the past 2 days. So.
And that's a guitar thing. That's not a horse thing.
Yeah. The galloping guitarist. That's a YouTube video that's coming at you in the next couple months. I guarantee it.
I like that a lot. Okay, well, why don't we jump into the first video then?
Okay, I apologize for not knowing how to say your name, but I'm going to take my best stab, and Andrew, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Adrian or Adriana?
Yeah, Adrian or Adrienne or something like that.
Okay.
Please correct us.
Adrian Daly. She has 3 videos, so we're not going to watch all of them. Of course, we never watch all of them because Andrew and I have already gone through them pretty exhaustively. But we're just going to go through these 3 because they're all from the same student in rapid succession, and then we'll continue on with the others. Cool. Here's the first one. Andrew, why don't you go ahead and get started with this one?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So this one, I read through the forum posts. I believe she said she's very new.
Yep.
So the fact that you are not even looking at your right hand is mind-blowing to me. I find a lot, especially with new players, as players get better, they stop looking at this hand and they stare a ton at this hand. But with new players, they really have to stare at the right hand. The fact that you are not staring at your right hand and you're hitting, for the most part, like 99% of the time, the right strings, super impressive. As far as critiques for that one, I'm trying to remember, because I didn't write notes because I watched them kind of last minute. Your chord changes were really good, I thought. One of the things that I noticed is that sometimes when you're picking individual strings, you might want to try anchoring a little bit, coming down and anchoring. So I can't remember the exact chords you were playing, but when you're doing like, if you're not going to mute this string right here, for me, I would sometimes try and find an anchor point. But honestly, I feel like you just need to spend more time playing because you're on the right track.
I don't want to criticize you because I know you haven't been. I don't want it to come across as criticism. I want it to guide you right. But like for playing as long as you have, it's just normal things, but fewer normal things than most players that have been playing as long as you have.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Why don't you get into your stuff there?
The playing sounds really good overall. One thing that I would spend some time on. It seems like your G and your E minor chords you can go to fairly quickly. And have the changes in time. The D and the C seem like it takes a little bit longer to get your fingers on, so that C, you may put one finger down first and the other ones may follow. So as a practice point, I would make it a point, pardon the pun, to just put your C on and take it off for like 5 minutes at a time. Or even do it like, 10 times, and then switch to a D.
Right.
Take it off. And that's boring, I know. And you're also doing a really good job of using music in your playing, like actual music. We'll get to that later. But that's the first thing. Isolate those chords that you're having trouble going to or not getting to quite in time. The second thing, I said great sounding strumming. Maybe try anchoring something for those bass notes, just like Andrew said. So if you're floating your hand, like totally floating it, which I do sometimes, and that's totally fine.
Yes.
But if you're having trouble with your accuracy, try just touching the top of your guitar with some of your fingers right here, and that can give you some kind of tactile reference. That's a little loud.
It is a little loud for what you do.
Let me turn that down. Okay, there you go.
That's good.
So just try maybe anchoring this pinky. Like I wouldn't anchor when I'm strumming my wrist.
Right.
So maybe just that little bit of reference for touching your guitar, your pinky right here.
That's interesting.
Can really help those
because I do rest my palm when I do
I can't do that when I strum.
Which makes sense. It goes to show there's kind of two different ways. You got to kind of find what works for you.
Yeah, just experiment with it.
That's smart.
And I used to not do that much at all until I started getting into that type of playing, or like that type of stuff. It seemed like you were muting when you're playing the G string. It seemed like you were muting the A string, and when you're playing the C chord, it seems like you're muting the D string,
which is pretty normal.
Like everything looks good here as far as technique. Just be mindful of that, and maybe come down just an extra 5% with the elbow in and on top of the fingers being tall, and that'll clear that up from this to this. So those are the main things you want to work on. And like everything's looking great. It's progressing normally or better than normal, I would say. So just remember those things as you move forward. Let's go to the second video. Same student here. Okay, that one, I don't know if she's reading or she's looking at the tab, but she reads through the entire thing, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But and I'm gonna say, take this with a grain of salt, because what I'm gonna say isn't to be only done. Like what you did, following through and playing the whole thing through, is a really nice change from just doing this. Over and over again, right? But you do need to go through and do this measure by measure, or even like beat by beat. Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be really painful for a long time, and it's going to take a lot longer to really get down to where you actually know. So I would keep doing what you're doing if you want to read through the whole thing. I know it's a lot more fun because you feel like you're playing a whole piece of music, but also like every day, take one measure at a time. So that could be your thing for the first day, and only go. You're doing a really good job of going slowly, by the way, but go slowly as you need to. Too fast. So I still mess it up there. I haven't played that song in forever. But go as slow as you need to in order to not make any mistakes. And if you can do that, do a little faster. And if you can do that, then move on to the next measure. And all of a sudden you'll have, like in a week, you'll have the whole first 4 to 8 bars done. Yeah. And up to speed, you'll have it memorized, and you won't have to be reading as much. So I would do it both ways. Keep doing what you're doing, because I know it's more fun to do it that way, but also really segregate the measures, even bar by bar, beat by beat, just over and over again until you memorize it, so you don't have to rely on reading as much. That's really the only thing. I know it's a little bit awkward with your right hand doing the finger picking, but you're really new, so that'll work itself out. The main thing is to be sure to stay relaxed.
Being that new, it's pretty expected.
Yeah, that it's going to be awkward. Like what's the best way that my body likes to do this, right? And if you haven't gone through Fingerstyle 1, go check out Fingerstyle 1. It has a lot of like really good technique exercises that will help you isolate the technique, so you don't have to worry about, what notes am I playing? It's more like stuff that's kind of arbitrary patterns, so you can really focus in on how you're hitting the strings.
The one tiny thing I noticed with the fingerstyle thing, I could be wrong because I'm not a classical guitar player, but this would just be a recommendation I'd have if you're going to do fingerstyle. When you have your hand, you have it very like vertical, like this. So what happens is when you're using different fingers, you're reaching a lot to get to the different strings, where if you just turn your hand a little bit into a more natural position, your fingers actually line up with the strings.
Right in a row.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed is not the whole time, but a lot of the time we're like this, so then when you're going to pick separate strings, you're kind of reaching a lot. Yeah. This, more relaxed, where you can see my fingers, when I'm at an angle like this, they line up with each individual string, like that.
Right.
So that's one thing.
Yeah, like when I play that,
you have that nice
my
angle.
hand doesn't move hardly at all, unless I'm having to make a shift to get the high E string or something. Even then, my fingers just go out a little bit.
It doesn't look like you're making long reaches for anything. They're kind of very natural.
As a starting point, just like loosen up as much as you can and then bring your hand to the guitar. If it falls like that, that's fine. If it falls like this, that's fine, right? Cool. Let's do the next one, the last one. Cool. This one, I have kind of the same awesome comment that we had in the ones before. It's like, for being a newer guitar player, you're not even looking at your right hand.
Looking. That's crazy.
And I think you're reading. I could be wrong, but it looks like you're reading. So I don't know. You have to let us know in the forums if you're reading that or doing the tabs or whatever. But regardless, it's pretty good. So you have quite a few irons in the fire. You have the rhythm, the first video, the fingerstyle, and the lead. So you're working on a lot of different stuff, which is really cool. It's fun. Let's see. The one thing that I would recommend is trying to go through and start using some upstrokes in addition to your downstrokes, and just to start to develop your overall picking technique a little bit. The downstrokes are looking good. You might want to go through alternate picking one on in the Guitareo members area. That'll get you used to using some upstrokes and some alternate picking. Just alternating down and upstrokes. So it'll just take this to the next level and give you some more tools to play melodies like that with. Also, similar to your strumming, you might want to try anchoring one part of your hand to the guitar. And it's not like you're having many accuracy problems. You may miss a couple notes in that video. But if you anchor either your pinky up here or your wrist down here for picking single notes. I do both when I do pick single notes.
Yep.
So think about either anchoring your wrist on the bridge of the guitar or your pinky, like on the top of the guitar, or both, kind of a combination of the two. And I think that's all I had to say.
That was my one recommendation. Beyond, like, it's not beyond, it's literally just maybe try an anchor point, but the fact that you're able to do it without is super impressive.
Yeah.
Not look and not have an anchor point. So I just, if you can, try and figure out what's comfortable. The biggest thing is comfort, right? You don't want to put yourself in like a super awkward position. But try, I anchor here pretty much all the time. I sometimes put my pinky down, but I'm not really a pinky anchoring person.
I used to not be.
You do it more often now?
I did it. I started doing it consciously when from Troy Grady video, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Interesting.
And immediately I was like, okay, for fast stuff, total helped me with accuracy.
It makes sense.
Cool. That's it for that one. Thank you so much for submitting all three of those videos. Those are great.
Keep up the great work. You're actually killing it. Do an awesome job.
Okay, this one is from a Guitareo staple member, Cretaceous. Let's give this one a look. All right, why don't you go ahead, Andrew?
Sure. First of all, great job. It's crazy. I mean, we've seen a lot of Contagious's videos, and you're just becoming a really good guitar player, honestly. It's super exciting to see and watch your progress, so it's awesome. Holger actually has a page, like a web page, with all of his stuff documented, which is so cool. I was going through some of that today.
If you can do it, it's a great way to like track your progress.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
No doubt. I don't have a ton to say that you won't say, because I think you're probably going to cover like some of the chord change stuff, some of the like the accuracy where maybe you're kind of not quite getting there with like the perfect timing of the changes. But one small thing I do notice is your pick motions are pretty big. So every time when you're picking, because that's not cross picking. What is that actually considered?
He was actually doing all cross picking on that one.
It is cross picking?
Yeah, because he was alternating down like
right.
Like
for
that,
sure.
Right.
So if I were doing that, I would probably try and find like a more relaxed way to pick through that, because I feel like if you were doing that same sort of technique any faster, those bigger movements, you're gonna kind of, your pick's just not gonna be in the best spot for doing that type of stuff any faster, if you ever want to. So usually smaller motions are better, and that might mean not doing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. That might mean doing like a little bit more. So if you look when I did all downstrokes instead of. That might be a way to kind of reduce the motion. The idea is like the bigger your motions are in both your left and your right hand, as you speed it up, the smaller you can get those motions to be, the more you can fit into a span of time, those motions. So that would be like the one small thing. I don't think it's like a huge deal or anything, and it'll probably just correct itself with time. But that was all I had.
Cool. If you don't know, I believe this is the Dream Theater song "Finally Free."
Yeah.
That's my favorite Dream Theater album.
Nice.
So by the way, what is it? Scenes from Memory. Cool. I saw that one live. It was awesome.
Nice.
So, straight cross picking, nice. I like when I close my mind and watch John Petrucci play. Any two adjacent strings, I could be wrong. I think he does like the semi-sweeping thing.
Yeah.
Any two non-adjacent strings, or when he's switching directions, he does cross picking. Okay. So I don't think it really matters, but like Andrew said, just make it as efficient as possible. And like I know, I wrote down here that it's really classical sounding, especially for something that's picked. So the chord shapes are weird. They're not traditional chord shapes. They're like bass notes with melodies on top. So you're getting a lot of weird positions. And I know that putting a video up like this with a time deadline crunch on it, you can only get those chord changes so clean before you have to put it up. And I know that, and I know you know that. So like the chord changes that aren't in time, I know you know where those are. So I'm gonna leave that with you, and like it's just a matter of how clean you want to make that, and if that's one of your goals or not. Yeah, like to make all that cohesive together with that, I would just pick like 2 bars or 4 bars at a time, and just woodshed the crap out of it really slowly, and then like the next day or the next day that you practice this, do those 4 bars plus another 4 bars, and even if like just because not all the chord changes are terrible, but some are like that.
Pretty brutal, yeah.
So maybe isolate those in whatever measures that are in surrounding that, and that'll help you. But really, that's all I have. Like the style is proper, just tighten things up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean everything else, like hand position, both hand positions. I think he played on this leg, right?
Yep, I think so.
Looks awesome.
Yeah.
Looks super pro. So great job.
Cool. Now this next one I'm pretty excited for, because this is like a big milestone for David L.
Yeah.
He is playing Dust in the Wind, and I know it's been one of his big goals, so let's take a look at it. Okay. First of all, David, man, you come so far since you first started. You're doing
awesome.
a really good job.
Yeah, so good.
I can tell that you've worked on the intro more than the verses. So, and that's just getting the chord changes down because you've got the pattern with your right hand. So I would really isolate the chord changes in the verses and all the other parts except for the intro. Like there are some gaps in between the chord changes. So just work on those. And you know how to do it because you got it with the intro. So, and I don't even know if I can play this. It's been like 2 months since I played it. Better than I thought it would be. But like the next step is to iron out the chord changes in those parts of the songs and then work on speeding it up a little. And to do that, I would just not even worry about this hand, just do this.
Right.
I know that sounds stupid on here. You guys can even hear it. Doesn't sound like Dust in the Wind. It sounds like some kind of Roomba or something.
Yeah, it does.
But you just work on that like you're already doing it slowly, but work on speeding it up and use a metronome to track your progress. That way you can get it up to speed and play along with the track. Let's see what else I have here. You got it down really quickly, man. That's crazy. Like this is one of the reasons why Dust in the Wind is so good to learn. You're building like half to 70% of the core skills you need to play like good fingerstyle stuff, like accompaniment fingerstyle stuff. Oh, this was an important one. This may or may not be an issue for you, but how is your right wrist feeling after a big practice session of this? Because I noticed your wrist is pretty out here.
It is.
Right, which is fine if that's working for you, but if you're feeling it in your wrist after a practice session, then just relax and bring it in. I mean, my wrist is out a little bit, but not like this, right? Yeah. So if it's hurting at all, that might be one of the reasons. Bring it, like, straighten it out a little bit, not too much, maybe like that, as opposed to that. So just keep an eye out for that. And you played the whole song, man. If you like that video you played, I think it was pretty much the whole song. It was like 3 minutes long. I don't even know the whole song. So really good job on that.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. You got everything. That was just super impressive, man.
Okay.
Awesome.
Next video, DHCIX. I would never think that that's anything but like an acronym or like initials or something, so.
You want to try and pronounce it?
DHCIX.
Nailed it. Nice. All right.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. Awesome job. Really nice. I think this guy was from back in the day, right? He mentioned?
Yep.
Like an older GL.com Academy student. That's awesome. It's great to see you back. He mentioned tendonitis, I think, as well. And that's what stopped him.
Really
I actually
yeah.
had the same issue when I was younger. I still, to this day, have chronic tendonitis. And just being very careful about how I came back and doing a lot of like strengthening, and I haven't had it flare up in like 5 years, like a really long time, just from never pushing myself and slowly building up that strength over time. So just don't, if it starts to hurt, make sure you stop. And if you keep doing stuff that is gonna work the muscles around your tendons, you will strengthen those muscles up so much that it's not quite so hard on your tendons doing these things. So it worked for me. I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the time when I was also playing guitar a lot.
Yeah.
And so it was just a lot of squeezing with this hand. And it came, like, was all in my elbow and in my wrist and stuff. And like I said, I haven't felt it in probably more than 5 years now, actually.
On a side note, I had an email like this from another member this week, and I said, stop, rest, don't do anything, come back to it. Because like I had the same issue. I was practicing guitar, drums, and exercising a lot. That was my left elbow.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing is just if you feel any pain, if you feel a little bit of pain because you're working hard,
like a burn.
Yeah, that's different. But if you feel like it might be acting up, just take a break, wait for it to totally go away. It
sucks.
That
tweak?
Yeah. I think you mentioned like almost 2 years off you had to take. For me, it was about 6 months from everything, and then I could slowly get back into guitar. But take care of yourself. The one thing that I noticed, you have a similar body type to me, like being like long and skinny. Yeah, was
Johnny Cash.
Yeah, good, not bang my mic. It's a lot easier to play if you bring your guitar down just a little bit and have your guitar so that if you look at the angle, my elbow comes down to the bridge. When I'm holding here and picking stuff and then going to strumming, that angle rather than this angle. Now you can do that, but you definitely are in a weirder spot. When you have to move up to palm mute, it's like really awkward. And I just feel like you probably will feel more comfortable over time if you just let your guitar just down. Like I'm trying to think about where the best, I don't think there's like a best place to have it, but just down enough so that your arm sits more over this part.
Wonder if sitting up like straighter would help that at all?
Possibly sitting up straight. It looked like you might have had like your leg up like this maybe.
Oh, okay.
I think I saw your knee in there, I'm not sure. But just bringing it down just a little bit will at least make it probably like more comfortable.
So I'm glad you addressed that because I'm short. I don't have to deal with that.
But that's all I had. Yep.
Okay. It sounded good, man. The first thing that I would recommend that you do, just like as a way to take this to the next level, is to get rid of the blip between chords. I don't even know what chords are. Something like that, right? Some kind of a G to an E minor. Instead of this. And I exaggerated that. It's not that much. It's more subtle than that. Try to get to those next chords without having that open string blip in there. And that's just like a natural progression of playing guitar. Like first of all, being aware of it, and then deciding, do I want to leave that in there for style or not? If I don't, then work on getting those chord transitions a little bit cleaner and faster. And like if it's a fast-paced song, I have to get on it, man, to get that change to where it's seamless. It's hard to get chords. Oh, I put something. It's hard to accurately pick chords like that. So you're doing a pretty good job on like the.
Right. Yep.
And you had a big shift. You had your strumming going, and then you went.
Yeah.
And then. Right. So that's really good. You got the tactile reference or like just planting, anchoring, so you know where you are. One thing you might want to do is just take one chord. And do an exercise like that just to see where you are and kind of train yourself to exactly where the notes on your guitar or the strings on your guitar, and then like change the chord to a 6-note chord. Right? And do exercises like that. Not a lot, maybe just here and there, every other day, 5 minutes a day or something like that. And you'll see playing like that, like the song you're playing start to clean up, and you'll be more accurate because your body will memorize exactly where those strings are. And you're already on your way there too. So just doing a little bit of intentional practice like that, I think will kick it over the edge. A couple of chord changes to isolate. Start just as a warm-up for the next 2 weeks or so. I would do a C major and the B7. And that B7, believe it or not, that version I never played until like 3 years ago. Maybe 4 years ago. But that one is so much weirder feeling than all the other open chords. It feels like all my fingers are squished up on the same string, on the same fret, right?
Yeah.
So just take that and work on getting that changed down, just the chord by itself, and use that as a daily warm-up. And do that for a couple weeks, and like the chord changes will smooth out on what you played twice as much, I guarantee it. So
Big time.
cool, that's it.
Nice. Who do we got next?
J-Rod, and he got this one cranked out fast because he did the play along, the musical application from the new course that just came out last week.
Wow, that was the song from that course?
Is the tune, the play along from that course, yeah. So let's check it out. Cool. J-Rod actually emailed me and asked for some specific feedback and advice on getting the right tones of his gear. So this is gonna be fun because I did research like what tones they use, but I didn't really have the means to get it. So I just first of all, I just plugged straight into my little cheap audio interface, pulled up bias effects, used the Fender Blackface, set it to clean, and stuck it on the middle pickup position, which I rarely use, but I was like, that's the sound I'm hearing on this album. So that's the one I used, and I did the left, or the open chord track on my Les Paul, and the part that he's playing, the J-Rod's playing on that Strat.
Okay.
So super bright and kind of jangly, but not like bridge pickup jangly. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
It's like I would put it on the middle pickup if you wanted to sound like, and all this stuff is if you wanted to sound like the album, right?
Right.
And I think he's using some kind of just native plugin in GarageBand or Pro Tools or Logic or whatever it is. And like presets on those things are almost always terrible. Almost always terrible. So like I said, I got just a Fender Blackface model, pushed it to where it was still clean, but I put the gain as high as I could to where it wasn't breaking up. That's where I did that, and the EQ was fairly flat. And I used, for like mic models, I used a 57 and a Royer, so I could get that bite and then some body to it. But let me see, what else do I have? Advice on direct tones. Yeah, that's the main things, and then just get good levels going in. Bias is the easiest thing I've come to for dialing in tones.
Yeah.
Like I use Helix Native too, but that takes me so much longer. It's so much harder to get something out of it that I use a lot. Andrew, I don't know if you want to talk about DI.
I can talk just about like the different options, at least, and especially for making stuff sound better. Obviously, which is super simple, use a good audio interface, which they're super affordable now, so it shouldn't be a problem. And you want to obviously use a good cable. But when you're coming direct out of your guitar, you're going into, I don't know which interface, he didn't say which one he was using. I think he just said using my I/O interface. The interface actually does matter because a lot of interfaces are actually, even though they have a direct in, they're not designed to be like high impedance in the same way that you would like use a DI box. So sometimes it's better to actually go into a DI box and then take like a mic line, an XLR cable, and plug that into your channel. You'll get like a much more, it'll just sound bigger and fuller and more frequencies will be there. Focusrite's interface has an awesome one naturally built in. So if you have like a Scarlett or something like that, the direct in is awesome. The Universal Audio one that I use is awesome. The Apogee one I think is really good, but I don't know. I think you might still want to, anyways. You might want to try a DI box. They can be really cheap. You can find them really cheap. You don't need to buy like an expensive radio one. But that would be an option. And then when you go in, now I use Logic pretty much exclusively, and I have bias effects. I honestly almost like some of the Logic amps just as much, but you really have to find the right one.
I only use like 4 amps in bias.
For sure. And that's so it's going to be the case with anything.
Yeah.
But you really want to focus on EQing the amp after the fact as well. So find a tone that you really like, and then bring up your EQ. If you're in Logic or you're in whatever you're in, bring out an EQ and cut and boost where you would want to. You can thicken it up. There's different tricks for it. We can talk about it more, like if you ever want to email me. But that would probably make it sound a little bit bigger and thicker. The other option is amps with like direct line outs and stuff like that, which are awesome. Or he said he's in an apartment, right? I'm gonna have to show you. I'm gonna do like a little my little home setup, a little tour video at some point. I was planning on doing it this week, just to show you, because I record really loud electric guitars at my house in a box. And I live in a townhouse, so like shared walls.
Yeah.
And I've never once got a complaint, and no one can hear anything. And I can crank up tube amps as loud as I want and record them, which is really like the best thing possible for me with the sounds that I like to get. So that's all I have to say.
One trick I was going to show you, because he can change out his channels from dirty to clean. In post, if you have your amp channel and you duplicate that channel, cut the take where the dirty guitar comes in, pull it down to the other channel, and just crank the gain on your amp settings. There you can have clean and distortion. right?
Oh, interesting.
So you just have 2 channels with 2 different amp settings. That's the way I do. That's the way I did some of the Foo Fighter stuff.
So you're saying the same take, and you're just putting it on 2 different.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it doesn't a pinch, right? I'm not gonna like release something that somebody pays for like that, or like an album, but it's a good like way to change channels.
So are you saying having 2 channels going at once though, right? Like have, or you're saying
like just duplicate your channel and then cut it the first take where you want it, then drag it down. So really you have 2 direct guitar solos, so it's the same thing.
Because also if you want one last little trick, sometimes what works really well is to duplicate the track itself. So if you are creating an audio track and you've got your little amp sim, you play the part, whatever, it goes all the way through, duplicate the same settings, you can tweak it if you want, and bring it down, pan them a little bit away from each other, and then go to the audio and just nudge it one way or another way, which is very important that you nudge it one way or another, and all of a sudden it'll just sound more full, a lot bigger. There's a lot of little tricks like that, but I record a lot of electric guitars right now, so I've been kind of playing around with different ideas. So I'd love to talk to you more about it if you want to email me.
Like all this gets to the playing now. All the playing things I have are totally stylistic, so you can take them or leave them. Like your playing is good, the timing is good, you got the voicings. The only thing like that's not subjective is getting up to that in time. So I can't even play this. My memory is so bad. Let's see. Like that shift is pretty big and it's pretty fast. So I would just like isolate that shift. And make sure not to hit the A string like I just did on that. So just work on that shift. Man, but I know you know what's going on because all the voicings are there. The only other thing was when you, like on the main riff, when you're playing this. When you hit this every time, there's 2 things with that. It starts to sound like Doobie Brothers.
Okay.
And sometimes that F gets hit, which sounds like an F minor 7.
Right.
Instead of an A.
Right.
So either be really careful not to hit that, or just leave, like I leave the A and D strings out altogether and just play the D. And it was for that particular reason. Because when I was listening to the tune, I was like, is it this? Then I found myself doing this. I was like, oh, that doesn't work. So I just said, scrap it all together and just mute these down here.
That makes sense.
And to me, that sounds a lot more like the album. But take that or leave it. You can make that stylistic adjustment if you want, but
The right hand playing was like really cool to watch. Super loose and just like very, very good sense of rhythm.
One thing that you guys, I don't know if you saw this, but one thing that he does on these bar chords, his pinky comes and helps with his 3rd finger bar duties right here. I've never seen anybody do that before.
Oh.
Or whatever it's doing. Right?
So the other, because I do this
I can't.
sometimes.
I don't even do that. Like power chord that he pinky.
Yeah, I always do pinky. But same with my A string bar chords. And then if I need to, I can reinforce with that.
I can't even do that. But yeah, he does this.
Wow.
That was pretty interesting. It's super subtle. If like you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't even notice.
Nothing wrong with that though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Okay,
Nice job.
2 left to go, unless you have anything.
No.
Okay, Matt S. And I just learned this song, or part of the song last week, so this should be pretty interesting. Let's go. Ross, you're just Johnny on the spot. He's
He
good
is,
at that.
yeah. Very good
Cool.
at that.
Let's see. You go ahead and start.
Sure. First of all, nice job. Second of all, that song was like one of my favorite songs ever when I was a kid. I think I looked it up. It came out in 2002, so I would have been 10 when it came out. And my parents, like my dad was into Foo Fighters, and I remember listening to that song, and it was just like, this is the coolest song I've ever heard. And I remember starting to learn it when I was a kid, when it came out, and then I gave up. I don't know why I gave up, but I love that song so much. So really nice job. The very first thing that I'll mention, which is kind of really the only thing I'll talk about, is when you're standing and playing with your guitar, it moves your guitar into maybe a different place than you would have it when you're sitting. So when you're sitting, it's pretty easy to put the guitar exactly where you want it. You put a strap on, and that 339 style guitar looks like it comes backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
So what you do with your hand is you're playing up by your neck pickup or up by literally where the fretboard starts. The problem with this, while it's totally okay and there's players that do it and stuff like that, is you just can't palm mute if you want to. So you're gonna get used to playing like this, and when you start going, you actually can't do it. So even though you're anchoring here and you can play the faster stuff, I don't remember the song. So, but when you're playing like that other part, you have your anchor, but I really would recommend kind of shifting the guitar over and again bringing your hand into a point where it can anchor closer to the bridge. And then when you're strumming, you can still move up a little bit, but then when it's time to like pick your stuff, you anchor it down here and you do that. And it would just be like, I don't think there's a point, I listened to the song and there's not a point where they like palm mute, I think they're always playing it like open like that. So it's not a big deal for the song, but I would think if you ever did want to palm mute, which I know like in my playing, I go between open and palm muting a lot, you would just want to be in that spot. That was like my only really
cool.
Suggestion.
I just noticed that like on the playback, so I'm glad you said something about it. But the reason I would have said something about it, it's a lot more aggressive sounding for this kind of rock stuff when you get closer to the bridge. You can't tell this guitar tone because I have it jazzed out, right?
Yeah.
But like if you go back to playing where you normally would when you're sitting down, like back here instead of up here, especially on that guitar and
Bridge pickup
for like rock tunes like this. I think it was on the middle pickup, which sounded good. It was a little mellow sounding, like this tone that I have right now. It's a little mellow sounding. I wouldn't use that.
Right.
Let's see. How do you play this thing again? In general, downstrokes are more aggressive too. A lot of this has to do with aggression for rock stuff. I think they're strumming like down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down on the, but when they start to, again, the tone sounded a little soft, but switching to the bridge pickup and moving your hand back. I don't think your hand was up here on that part. I think it was actually back here. But using all downstrokes too.
It was very up high.
Oh, it was?
He was doing that, yeah.
So yeah, I would move it back just to
time,
get a more aggressive tone and use all downstrokes on that part. So like those are just stylistic things, which is great because that means your playing is getting better and better. It's like, oh, you just have to tweak the like natural style of vocabulary for whatever tune you're playing. In this case, Foo Fighters straight ahead rock, right?
Yeah. One of the things I remember he mentioned in his forum post was he's trying to be more dynamic, which I think you did do very well. I think if you move that hand back and get used to that, you'll be able to control your dynamics even more because like you said, when you go back, you're able to be a lot more, it comes across as a lot more aggressive, which is a dynamic shift. So I would suggest that, but definitely more dynamic. I think the last song you did was Crossroads?
I think.
Was that the one?
Was it that or John Mayer too? Or it may have been another Foo Fighters.
That's a John Mayer. That is the John Mayer.
Oh, the John Mayer, that's right. Was either that or another Foo Fighters too?
I can't remember. Either way, it seems like you're like making very, very big leaps and improvements for sure. So
I have a Foo Fighters video coming out in 3 weeks?
Yeah, soon. Yep.
And it's going to be a good challenge video too. Well, not really a challenge. It's going to be a good video this is for J-Rod, to see the differences between a real mic'd up amp and then a modeler. Like the left channel will be all real amp, that amp right there, and then the right channel will be all modeling.
Right,
so.
right.
Cool.
Nice job.
I think that's it, man. It's just I was gonna say, great job learning the whole song. It's such a great song for working on like rock essential rhythm guitar. Your timing is good, and I love how you're getting into it. It was a fun video to watch. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Randy.
This is awesome. I'm really glad that he put one in here.
Me too. Let's go. What's in this tune? All right, Andrew, why don't you go ahead on this? I don't have much to say about this. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's if you guys don't know, Randy also works with us.
Randy's upstairs.
He's upstairs, and I'm sure he's watching right now. Well, obviously, you see him in chat. So this was really awesome. This is a new song from the Black Keys. I believe it's called Low High.
Totally not what I expected from Randy, by the way.
I know. I'm seriously rubbing off on him. My preferences are rubbing off on him. It's great. I'm just kidding. But he did a really good job. As far as good things, there's a lot. The recording stuff where you're doing releasing the pressure on the power chords to stop them from ringing out to create tighter transitions was really good. And a lot of people don't do that. They don't think like of doing something like that between. So
good style. Yeah.
When you're playing like that, it makes everything sound tighter and more percussive. As far as tightness is concerned, though, that was definitely would fall out of time a lot. One of the things that I will do when I'm doing something like that needs to be like really tight. So I'll really like accent the quarter notes when I'm learning it. So you listen really hard to the drums, right, when the drums are playing, or the rest of the instrument, really the drums. So as I just learned it right before this, sorry. So really making sure that those line up with the drum part like so tight. And then the notes in between that maybe the drum, because I think the drum's playing like on the quarter notes, they'll fall into place a lot easier as long as the quarter notes are landing right on those spots. I do that like when I'm tracking guitars as well. It's like focus on hitting whether it's a quarter note or an eighth note where the drums are. It's like those are my have to line up perfect points, and then everything in between will kind of fall into place anyway. So cool. with that like really good job. The vibrato is kind of the important thing to get that style down. I saw you trying to add some to certain spots. The important one is like I can't really bend on this.
You want this?
You can hear the vibrato there, right? So really getting that, like you can hear it's quite a wide vibrato with that first finger, because I noticed you have good vibrato with your third finger, I think, and I think maybe your second finger. Yeah. But the first finger was like a little bit inconsistent, so work on getting that down. A big thing with this, I would consider this to be very simple music. There's not anything that's like you hold out the notes matters a lot. So I noticed with a lot of the, especially in the solo, when you're playing the notes, you're either stopping them too early or letting them go too long, so then when you hit the next note, it just sounds a little bit off. This is really nitpicky stuff, obviously.
But it's Randy.
Well, I feel like I'm allowed to be more nitpicky with Randy. Otherwise, it's just not quite going to have like the same soul. Like, what is the... So like really getting like, you can hear that there's like a little bit more feel in what I just played that you kind of want to keep in there if it's going to be such a simple guitar solo, because that's all the guitar solos. I think it's played up, but I can't play it up quite that high. But you just really want to make sure that that sounds very voice-like. If there's any parts that like fall off too early or kind of land on the note too early, it's definitely going to kind of sound off. So, but other than that, I thought it was really good.
Well, I'm basically going to parrot everything he just said.
Nice.
Because it's like almost the same stuff, but I have a couple more little things. First of all, how's the different picking angle going? I know Randy switched from this to this, and I know that could be so freaking weird. Like I'm doing a lot of galloping stuff, and like I don't want to do this. I'm better at it this way, but I want to get it to where I can do downward. So I know it's a big process, and your pinky's anchored, which is awesome. I just want to kind of update on how the process is going, because I know it's a giant nuisance when you have to change something that big in your playing.
Oh yeah.
The tone I thought was really appropriate for the tune. Yep. Really tubey sounding, even though it probably wasn't.
It was not.
Which means, you know.
Well, maybe it was. He's been using an amp.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
You'll have to let us know what you're using. And I love the ending. So those are my positive things to say.
Yeah.
Like, I know what kind of music you listen to, Randy, and that going from metal where everything is on the beat and really precise is really tough when you're going to this like lazy, not sappy in a bad way, but sappy sounding, dirty rock where everything's just laying back and behind the beat. And it's not that you weren't necessarily in time. I think a lot of the time, I think you weren't interpreting the time correctly for the type of music that it was, because it was on or a little bit ahead.
Yep.
And when you're playing metal, that's how you want to play.
Correct.
When you're playing this type of music, you have to almost like, I just had a giant meal and I'm ready to play. I'm just feeling really sluggish, right? And I think a lot of that's just interpreting the time better and working with a metronome and playing through a lick like that, right, just pushing the beat, playing right on the beat, and then playing right behind the beat.
Yeah.
And that's something I had to learn doing Chelsea's last album, because like that type of music is not the kind of stuff I would normally play.
For
and
sure.
A lot of it is like really held back on the beat or just barely on the beat. So I know how that is coming from like a rock and metal background, trying to do more like soul pop, like swampy stuff.
Yeah, so. and that is what's going to give it that little bit of a feel. That's why you don't grid edit this type of music, and a lot of metal is put on a grid so everything lines up perfect. It's actually very similar to pop music in that way. They do that, whereas this type of music is very like, if you were to dive into like the recording, you would see
everything is
the drum
late.
hits are slightly not on where like the metronome would put it. So, and that's what gives it's really cool. Swampy is such a good way to put it, or sappy kind of feeling. Put vibrato on your bends.
That was my next thing. Well, first, nice transitioning from like the power chords into the licks. The transitions are good. Put, like Andrew said, just put some more conviction into your vibrato and just commit to it. I know it's weird. Like I don't really do up much. If I do it, sometimes I do, but
I go down.
Sorry, that's what I meant. I don't really pull. I push most of the time I can, unless I'm on the low strings, right?
Yeah.
So,
with if you wanna get that style, which it's very similar to a lot of the old blues guys, when they use their first finger, they almost always go down.
Watch a lot of B.B. King. I know that's weird. You may have just started that, and I suck at it. So
yeah,
but commit to it and like.
But yeah,
put some conviction on it. Yeah.
Randy just said it was tube amp. So
awesome.
I think he picked up a trainer and then he's like going into a power amp and then recording out of the power amp.
Okay.
So he's basically like turning it into a direct out. It's really cool actually. Or using the effects loop to record.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounded awesome.
Let's see.
Anything else on that?
That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, that's all we got. We went almost a full hour.
Almost full.
That was a long one.
We finished.
Those are awesome, guys. All of those were really fun to watch. I mean, yeah, it's super fun to be able to do this. I hope none of you guys feel too picked on, other than Randy. He can feel a little picked on. That's okay. But yeah, no, that was awesome. Anything else you want to say, Nate?
Hopefully tomorrow I will put up next month's student focus thread in the forum. Start submitting videos right now, or start preparing to. And if we get more than 9, we'll do 2 next month.
Deal. Sounds good, guys. Okay, well, that's it. That's all from us.
Cool.
We will see you guys next time. See you later.